No Mike Shope today. Out on a family experience. It is going to be Davis Maddock, Pat Crane, Jacob Sanderson with you. No one wants elite tight ends anymore. Some are saying the best ball cabal is going a bit too far. We're going to get to the quarterbacks being risers. We're all trying to find the guy who's doing this as Pat Crane comes to us live in a hot dog suit. It is the July 8th edition of ADP Chasing.
ADP chasing is for when you watch ship chasing, you go, these guys are just football guys.
I have my 4% exposure blanket.
Stay poor.
Actually back in if it's Ashane.
Stare into our crystal ball. Close your eyes. All your entries are going to lose anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're not going to tell me how this went. I was here.
It's anti-cabal. It's anti the best ball thought leaders. I'm obviously lying to some degree because I have a lot of both of these guys.
It's the most disgusting pick you can make. But man.
All right, there we go, folks. We are live. Corain, Jacob, and David,
grabbing coffee last minute.
It's so funny. Without Mr. Shope to be the referee, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm expecting last call to probably take place at 10:55 Central Time as I am ending the stream to go do the Swolecast. It's going to be, there's no referee. And I think we are going to get into some pretty good arguments today. I think that we should just start here. Corain, how do you feel about ruining backstacking quarterbacks for everyone? When you see Matt Stafford go naked, unstacked at pick 144 in one of your rooms, just kind of what's your response? Do you feel proud? Are you happy with what you've done, or are you should have kept it to ourselves?
Davis, I have 3 quarterbacks in those situations, and the quarterback tab is turned off, so I didn't even notice. But it's a real shame.
Have you rewatched Oppenheimer recently?
What have I done? We have
you have become death.
You know what I'm doing?
I've seen Peaky Blinders. Does that count?
It's basically the same thing. I'm actually doing a stream with Corain later, and I was gonna put him as Doc Brown next to a time machine. But I think now I might do him as Oppenheimer. I might make Corain's face Cillian Murphy, realizing that he is.
I think you could make
the entire universe.
Seeing Jacob with his hair slicked back, I now want you to go the other way and get the full puff and make him Einstein.
This isn't even slick. This is just my typical routine.
It's pushed back.
It's just really wet. That's just all it is. I'm about 4 minutes out of the shower with the comb. You will see it steadily dry over time. My typical routine on these shows, for those who don't know, Pat and I are you back in California or are you still in New York?
Not yet.
Normally, our typical routine would be that Pat and I are doing these at 7 a.m. And so that means usually I'm showering post-show. But I was like, Shope's not here. This is going to be a long one. I've got to shower pre-show so I can get to work at a reasonable hour. And so, yeah, you guys are seeing me as a blonde member of the mob today.
I might just be real quiet and we're going to hit the under on this because I love that both you guys have Jacob changed his morning because it's going to go long. It would be funny if this is a nice, tight 55-minute show.
Yeah, I doubt that.
You do really, Jacob.
Dynasty week on ADP Chasing.
Whenever you do this with your hair, you do look like one of the Icelandic bad guys from D2. The Mighty Ducks is kind of generally to do a little bit of puck chasing. I mean, a truly phenomenal film, but that is exactly the vibe you get.
That's fair, non-derogatory.
All right, let's actually go ahead. Let's go ahead and get to the first slide because this is something that I have been mulling over in my mind. And I actually think at their current costs, the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the teams that our assumptions could be proven most incorrect about. Because what the market has done with Aaron Rodgers being introduced to this team is they'd say, well, we'd like to draft a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, not too much, but we feel more confident in him starting 17 games than we do Sam Darnold. We feel very confident that DeKalen Zacharias Metcalf is going to be receiving a 32% target share. We also feel very confident that it is still Arthur Smith calling the plays and not Aaron Rodgers, right? Which I think could be an incorrect assumption from the market. The market is assuming that Jonnu Smith is clearly ahead of Pat Freiermuth.
Are they assuming that, or is it just mechanically take a really long time for players to fall on underdog?
No, because it's been
also we're
now.
assuming that, but it's not like he's way ahead. But we have a lean to Jonnu in the rank.
Yeah, I have them ahead, but I have them like less than a round apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ETR has Freiermuth like almost like undraftable. They have Freiermuth in the 200s. I think I might have Freiermuth actually unranked in my stuff. Like actually in my top 240 players, I don't know if I even have Freiermuth in them. I have Jonnu lower than ADP as well. Warren has seen a slight. I believe Warren is now going like around after Jordan Mason. Caleb Johnson weirdly has actually gone up a smidge. Like I've noticed Caleb, like it's more often that the drafter, like after like Godwin goes, I've noticed that like, oh, sometimes the guys drafting at 68 will just take Caleb Johnson instead of David Montgomery or whatever for his running back too, which I think is fine. And I will toss this to you, Jacob, which is the Jets actually were a positive PROE team last year. I want to say Rodgers got to 550 attempts. Let me actually.
I think he had 584.
500. Let's do a little fact check. Aaron Rodgers 584 pass attempts, 897 yards, 28 passing touchdowns, 11 picks. I mean, obviously, 1.9.
I have no idea how I knew that exactly.
Jacob just nailed that. That's crazy.
That's pretty good. I'm very impressed. Nothing is going to impress me more than random little bits of NFL minutia like that. But the thing about the Jets is the assumption would be, oh well, the Jets were terrible, right? So no wonder they threw all the time. Well, that doesn't explain being a positive PROE team, right? Because if the scoreline dictates,
but who cares?
Throwing.
He's a Arthur Smith now. It's different.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, Corain, that opinion could very easily be wrong. That part of this whole negotiation, part of why Rodgers didn't sign until June 25th or whatever, was like Rodgers being like, I'm taking the clock down to 1. You're letting me do as many RPOs as I want. I want to pad my career passing touchdown numbers. We're on the 3
that I could
line.
buy. I think the way I look at it is, so apparently these two have been sitting down talking ball. You know, it's like, oh yeah, it's a good play call there. Good job. Right? They're all kind of just sort of half stoically, you know, half grumpily watching film together. And there's going to be the question of who ultimately has called the play, right? The majority of the time, I expect that to be Arthur Smith because that's how the NFL works.
Well, that's how it worked with Rodgers wherever he was. But he was on the same page. He was on the same page philosophically / had installed that OC. As
not always.
Guy.
Not always.
Not always.
Notably, Matt LaFleur, who was the one he won 2 MVPs with, was one of the few that came in and was like, no, actually, you know, we'll keep some things you want to do, but we're doing this offense my way. So I wonder if I think it might be similar to that.
I think it is similar to that. Now, LaFleur has a different philosophy than Arthur Smith. He's a better coach. So that worked pretty well. Arthur Smith is going to be overly tilted to the run pretty much regardless of the situation. We know this. You know, I think he would probably like to turn this version of Rodgers kind of more into like the Tannehill game manager type of guy as they lean on the run and the defense like that. And like, I don't blame him based on what Rodgers looked like last year. So I would expect, you know, on the typical down that it's an Arthur Smith play call. It's how much is Rodgers willing and sort of gotten, you know, enough leash to audible to passes in key situations. Around the goal line, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he actually does audible to passes at a decent rate, because that's kind of his thing, is to pass at the goal line, and he's got the quick release and all of that. It's a high leverage kind of situation. Probably not the hill you want to die on if you're Smith. Just let him do his little short passes. So Yeah, but I would be pretty surprised if Rodgers had enough influence to make this a positive PROE team. I mean, Smith is not just negative PROE. He's mega negative. He's like -8, -10.
Would not. I, for one, would not be surprised if Arthur Smith gets fired. I would not be surprised if there was like a very tacit agreement that like, as long as we are winning games, as long as this is not like creating, like if you're playing better than Kenny Pickett, Aaron, you want to throw 42 times? Sure. Like I
don't think so.
I don't think so at all.
Didn't Rodgers need the Steelers more than the Steelers needed Rodgers? Like they both needed each other.
So I think it's really
I feel like Rodgers is the more dependent.
In some ways, him not signing to me does not speak of him having this big time leverage on them. It's that they were like, yeah, you can come if you want, man. We're here, but like we're not like figure it out. You figure your shit out and come play for us if you want to play football. I mean, it was weird that they put themselves in a situation where they didn't really have another option if he didn't show up.
Yeah.
Matt Canada got fired in the middle of the season.
After a long time.
They had been calling to fire, like Steelers fan wanted Canada out for like 2.5 years before he got fired.
They were still winning though. Correct? Like they still made the playoffs.
They're always
all right,
let me the same shit no matter what. They could start they could start literally they could start Davis fucking Maddock at quarterback. They would go 9-8 and be the 7th seed. That's their destiny.
I'm gonna make an analogy here that I think that is gonna turn Jacob to my side, and it probably won't do anything for Corain. Do you know who Aaron Rodgers is right now for this organization? He is
who is he?
40-year-old LeBron James.
Oh
where the organization is purposely doing things that they would not do if he was not there, that are not analytically sound.
Though? I appreciate the analogy.
Yeah, LeBron's still good.
One, LeBron is still probably like the 9th best player in the NBA, and 2, LeBron won them a title when they were in complete wilderness, and he got them a title, and the Lakers are forever.
Davis, this is a crazier conspiracy theory than anything I've ever heard from Aaron Rodgers. What are you talking about?
What is happening? Is we are on the outside looking in, and we say Aaron Rodgers is the same thing as Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers is the same thing as Kenny Pickett. Aaron Rodgers is the same thing as 97-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. No, and I think it's really unlikely.
Those guys.
I just think it's very unlikely that people who are football people, like when they think they're getting Aaron Rodgers, they think we're getting capital A, capital R Aaron Rodgers. That is my guess. I just think with Rodgers, look, he was quite empowered with McCarthy, or maybe they just had similar preferences, so it worked. Well, he was also
a long time in Green Bay,
way better then, right? And he was way better.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the world, maybe the best for most of that period. Then he has a mild decline. I mean, not even to the level he's at now, but he has a mild decline, and the Packers yank back control. They go, we're drafting Jordan Love.
And Rodgers said,
and not yet. They said we're drafting Jordan Love. We're bringing in a new coach. We're running his system, and you can get on board with it. And Rodgers whined, and he threw a little hissy fit, but he did get on board with it, and he won back-to-back MVPs, and they had a lot of success. And then he said, "Okay, I'm leaving," and he chose the Jets. The Jets had no quarterback. They were desperate. They groveled. They shamed themselves to
they
go
shamed
get it.
themselves, yeah.
And they kissed his feet. And so he said, he had all the power in that relationship. He was like, I get to do everything my way. I'm bringing in all my friends. I'm bringing in my coach. I'm calling all the plays. We're not doing any motion. I go on Pat McAfee once a week. Everybody has to tell me their favorite conspiracy theory before they get allowed into the huddle.
What's your favorite? Hold on, wait. What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
Mine personally.
You personally.
I think that the Olsen twins are just one person.
I've never even heard that one. My favorite is the Philadelphia experiment. That's the one that I'm just like, I've not heard any convincing. Conspiracy theories suck now. Obviously, in 2025, society has been ruined. Conspiracy theories have been ruined, but the Philadelphia experiment, phenomenal. Corain?
Here's my theory. This is something I heard about. I think Ollie Connolly has made this point. I believe that's where I heard this. But he was like, here's the thing about the Steelers that you have to understand. They drafted Ben Roethlisberger in 2004.
Yeah.
They had him as their quarterback through multiple eras of the NFL. He didn't retire till 2021. So like the NFL changed in multiple kind of different ways over the course of Roethlisberger's entire career. And then they get here where like quarterback is now such a priority. You have to handle it differently than you might have in 2004 or
2010 or 2015.
Yeah, or 2015. Like it's different now. You know, it's all about, you know, you got the quarterback contract, the rookie year thing, like and frankly, if you have a guy in the building that you think can play, like you don't let him leave. You know, that's like another kind of key thing. I think that they just completely screwed up the offseason. They had a guy in Justin Fields that they basically were like, hey, Justin, if we can't figure out anything better, we're interested in maybe having you back. Right. They completely misread the market.
So
the Jets
bad.
were like, hey, man, we would like you to be our quarterback. We're going to give you a deal that reflects that. Hey, Sam Darnold, please come play for us. We're going to give you like a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option, basically. There's lots of interest in these quarterbacks that the Steelers were kind of like, you're not so great. It's like, yeah, they're not. But if you don't move, you're going to get left out in the cold. And I think that's what happened. I think they got left out in the cold, and that's why they had to sit around and wait for Aaron Rodgers to decide whether or not they're going to play for him. I think they correctly did read Aaron Rodgers that he would play for them because they really just kind of they put all their eggs in that basket, and here he is. But I don't see this as like I don't know. I think they kind of don't. They just kind of screwed up the offseason. And so the idea that like they view him as like capital A, capital R Aaron Rodgers, I don't think they do. I think they kind of know who he is. He's a diminished version of Rodgers. They would have had to not watch football last year to think that he's still capital A, capital R Aaron Rodgers. He tore his Achilles 2 years ago, and he looked like a different quarterback. Not completely washed, but certainly not the guy he was before he tore his Achilles.
He just can't move, right? I mean, that's that
literally
hurts. He
right,
cannot,
but that hurts.
He cannot move.
It hurts big time, and especially it hurts the way that he wants to run his offense in the way that he did last year, where there's no. I mean, he's like, I want to do my passes from under or from shotgun. I want to run from under center. I don't want there ever to be any motion. I want everything to be as static as possible, so the defense can figure out exactly what we're doing every single snap. And like, you just can't mitigate that when you can't move. So anyway, my point for all of that before Davis started quizzing us on conspiracy theories was just that the Jets scenario, I think, was very unique in that he was the one who had all of the power because he chose the Jets. And he kind of chose the Steelers, but the Steelers were his only choice. Rodgers' choices this offseason, seemingly, I guess he could have chose the Giants if he wanted to decide earlier, but then that was taken off.
Could he have chosen the Browns, by the way? Do we think that?
I don't think so.
Possible?
I think that the Browns, I mean, that would have been really funny if the Browns were like, hey, fans, we know you're really mad at us about the Deshaun Watson experience, but have you considered the Aaron Rodgers experience? That would have been hilarious, but I don't think that was a real option. I just think with this, it was once the Giants were like, cool, man, we've moved on. His choices were, have a show on the Daily Wire or quarterback the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so like he chose the latter option, and that's going to come with.
Well, he also says this is the last year, so look forward to that show and hitting your airways in 2026.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just horrible. So I think
it's a reprieve. It's still coming, but we got a year off.
To get to something actionable here. Oh, actually, I got one more question before we get into something actionable. Does your opinion on Rodgers' hierarchy amongst decision makers for who calls the plays change if they trade a 6th-round pick for Allen Lazard? Like because I think it has to, right?
That's the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
Or if Mercedes Lewis signs, or if Randall
Cobb,
retired,
Lazard, Mercedes Lewis, any of his gang of mid shows up at the Pittsburgh Steelers facility. Yeah. If any member of like the 2018 Green Bay Packers goes up in Latrobe, I'm upgrading their PROE by 2 percentage points per member of the 2018 Green Bay Packers.
We're used to the canary in the coal mine, but what about the Lazard and Latrobe?
the Lazard,
The Lazard and Latrobe. If Robert Tonyan is brought to camp of any of these players.
Well, and the reason
The
why
Tonyan in the tunnel.
the reason why I wanted to start here
Jared
is
Aberdarius gets a camp try.
Hey. Jeff Janis, Jared Aberdarius, Jake Kummerow, any of these guys.
Geronimo Allison.
Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb would be a big one.
Geronimo Allison probably is just like a straight up upgrade for.
They might seriously. They could use Randall Cobb. I think
they could use Randall Cobb. Yeah. The reason why I ask this is I actually think
Robert Woods
defining these range of outcomes for the late round quarterbacks, like the difference between Rodgers, Darnold, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, Jackson Dart, Russell Wilson. I actually think that as these guys get close, like these guys are all 100% drafted now, basically, particularly on DraftKings, right? The 20 round stuff, they're going every single time. So it's kind of in my mind that like getting this right is actually a huge part of the season, right?
Does it only affect like one player though?
Well, if Rodgers is, if the Steelers are 8th in the NFL in PROE, if Rodgers throws 580 passes again, no. I mean, it can impact Jonnu, it can impact Freiermuth, one of Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson can be like a.
I just so much rather if you're gonna.
I think the only real thing that happens is that it just makes DK a better pick, and I guess it makes Caleb Johnson a slightly worse pick. But like,
well, not really.
Once you get past like Hunter Henry, to me, like every tight end is just the same anyway. So like, there's not really any difference. It's like you could take a guy who's undrafted in 90% of drafts, or you could take the next up in ADP, and it's like you're basically just hoping for a touchdown in week 17. So I like almost don't even care about the effect on Jonnu or Freiermuth. And then like DK, obviously, if they pass way more than I expect, is a much better pick than I'm currently ranking him. But
yeah, but he's not like he's super cheap, man.
Are so bad.
If DK Metcalf was going like where Jerry Jeudy is, you know, then it'd be like, okay, there's a lot of room for upside here. If Rodgers is like, you know, as much better than Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and the two rookies as we expect, like what are we doing? Like they're going to throw some, but he's not. That's not happening at all. He's going at the 3-4 or the 4-5 turn, which is still like there's plenty of guys there that I want.
Crane, pull up the slide. Pull up this should have been up. This should have been up the entire time. Just one thing I did absolutely want to note about this is Pat Freiermuth just looks like every guy that goes to your local gym. Pat Freiermuth, just like
I didn't pull up the slide. I want to finish my point.
Yes, sorry.
You have to talk about what Fred.
Continue.
No, go ahead. Tell it now.
Well, it's just like how could Pat Freiermuth possibly be the guy you need when he looks like a 38-year-old middle manager at a car dealership? Like, what is going on? How is that what Pat Freiermuth looks like?
He looks like someone's brother.
Yeah.
Like, Pat, get in here. Come on.
He does. He literally does look like a trainer's brother. He's like, he was helping us run routes.
He's moving around tables and stuff. And they're like, come on, get in.
Moving tables.
Is that so? It's Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin.
Well, definitely Rodgers. Calvin Austin in the middle because he looks like Toad.
Who is that? Is that Gunnar Olszewski? Who is in between? Who is between Freiermuth and?
Is that Scotty Miller? Or no, Scotty Miller's on the left.
It's Scotty Miller.
Yeah, that's Scotty Miller all the way on the end.
Okay.
Who's next to Rodgers?
On the right, Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson.
That's Roman Wilson. Okay.
Bullish.
I don't know who is between Freiermuth and Miller though. Maybe
I got no clue. I got no clue who that is. Roman Wilson being Rodgers' left-hand man. Bullish.
Are we concerned that Robert Woods is not in this photo?
Roman Wilson looks like he.
Robert Woods.
I'm not. I don't.
Oh,
like,
it's
the posture.
It's Skowronek. It's Ben Skowronek.
Oh, good old Benny Scow.
Classic.
Look at the Roman Wilson looks like he's being held hostage. I'm not a fan.
That's true.
Of
He looks
kind of
like
the
Aaron
energy.
Rodgers just told Roman Wilson to steal the Declaration of Independence, and he's not that into it.
Why? Okay, why is Darnell Washington not in the picture? Where's Darnell?
He's currently stealing.
He's
the
too
Declaration of
big to be pictured.
Darnell Washington is too big to run routes.
How much ayahuasca do you think Darnell Washington would need to take to get high?
So much more than all the rest of those guys. Like
Do you think that's why they
DK
didn't invite
Metcalf.
him? Because he would have taken like 50% of the ayahuasca just for himself to feel something?
DK Metcalf refuses to be pictured with Darnell Washington because it's going to ruin his rep. He needs to
That's
always be
true.
the biggest man in the photo.
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of like DK Metcalf's energy here, where he's standing straight up,
Yeah.
right?
looks
Got
like
the
the
two
alpha.
arms out. He looks like he's having a good time, kind of gregarious. And Rodgers, he's got his arm around Rodgers, but look at Rodgers. Rodgers he's not going to come under the DK. He doesn't want to
Right.
be, the little brother, get little brothered by the DK arm. So he's like keeping his distance a little. Meanwhile, DK's basically got a little hug going with Calvin Austin. So I kind of
It's really,
like how
really
DK played it.
bearish that Roman Wilson has Rodgers' arm around him. One,
Yeah.
looks miserable, and two, his arm is not touching Aaron Rodgers.
not touching
His arm
Aaron
is
Rodgers.
straight down.
Yeah. See, I think DK and Rodgers, this looks like people who've kind of like worked it out a bit.
Right.
Like there's a sort of a mutual
Yeah.
respect thing happening, or at least, there's a truce of
Right.
some kind.
No,
Yeah.
I'm disagreeing with this. I think it's ultimately, end of the day, it is most bullish that Roman Wilson is next to Rodgers. Ultimately,
I don't think so. at all.
ultimately,
I don't
I'm
think
going.
that's bullish, man.
Also,
He's
I
kind of
feel,
in front of Rodgers. Like he's not even. It does not look like. It's very strange. It's very strange. I think it's pretty bearish.
Roman
Yeah.
Wilson's also from Hawaii, so I feel like people from in Hawaii, I feel like they actually have real spiritual knowledge. So I feel like you would find Aaron Rodgers uniquely annoying if you're from a historical and spiritual area, and then you just have this random white guy just coming in and talking a bunch of nonsense. I think I would find Aaron Rodgers even 3 times more annoying than I currently do. That's my geographic theory.
I could see that. It's hard. I don't know. Isn't there a cap? Is there a cap to how annoying you can find someone that he's kind of butting up against?
I don't think so. The limit does not exist.
The limit does not exist. There's a really interesting comment here. Where did it go? But I'm sorry. I'll find it and pull it up. But the point is that it looks like DK Metcalf is holding on to Pat Fryermuth's shoulder in his
He
shirt.
is.
Oh, that's true.
he is.
He's fully
Yeah.
wrapped from Calvin Austin. He's got 3 people under his yoke.
That is a flex. Is this now? I assumed Rodgers' hand was around Roman Wilson. Is that actually Metcalf's?
Ultimately, I think I'm going to be on the right side of history here. Roman Wilson is going to be a
DK Metcalf
classic Aaron Rodgers
Elastigirl?
guy. What?
I said, is DK Metcalf Elastigirl? Isn't like from
He could be.
Fantastic Four, the one with that can do woo, stretch her arms in various ways.
Davis, this picture is I would say at least inconclusive evidence on Roman Wilson's role this year. I would say a stronger piece of evidence is that they just traded for Jonnu Smith and love Darnell Washington and are probably going to play more 13 than any NFL team
Ever.
since
Potentially ever.
1964.
Yeah, since the wing T was the dominant offense.
Yeah. So I don't know. That seems bad. That seems bad for Roman Wilson, guy who's probably behind.
If I'm just
Austin.
thinking classic, Aaron Rodgers decides one guy is going to score 8 touchdowns, it's going to be Roman Wilson. Well, actually, it's probably Darnell Washington somehow.
Yeah,
Darnell Washington
yeah,
replicating the Robert Tonyan season. That's probably enough of the Aaron Rodgers circle of trust. I think after 30 minutes, we can probably go ahead and get to the risers. Everyone
nice tight 30.
has.
Let's move on.
Yeah, nice tight 30.
Yeah.
So everyone
Making
decided
great
that two confluent things are causing Tyreek Hill to change 16.5% in ADP. First being Tyreek Hill attended a track and field event. I did not do the research to know what event this was. I don't know if this is like a Nike sponsored thing. I don't know if this is Olympic qualifying, but he won the races that he participated in. He ran 100 meters in, I think, 10.35 seconds, maybe even faster than that. And everyone has basically done the CMC thing with Tyreek, which is every day that Tyreek is not. Well, every day that Tyreek is not injured is a day that he's not injured, meaning it's less likely that he gets injured. Yeah. So let's keep taking him. Same thing is happening with Devin Achane. Same thing is happening with Jaylen Waddle, not as it relates to their health, but basically, instead of reallocating any of those, 80, 85 targets for Jonnu Smith to a different player, to an unnamed player, to Malik Washington, to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, all of those targets have been equally distributed across those three players, with none going to anyone else. I think the market is probably correct in this. The price I'm obviously most interested in is A-Chain. Like, I think I could see an argument to take A-Chain at like the 1.8 or whatever. I don't particularly think it should be newsworthy that Tyreek Hill is fast, though. Right? I mean, I think we probably already knew that. Thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I guess with Tyreek Hill, last year was such a dramatic drop off that the question around this entire offseason has been, is it because he's old and now he's not the same guy? Or did the offense kind of collapse into this weird version of itself, and maybe they're able to pull up out of that? The problem, I think, is that the offense. I'm on team offense, not team.
I'm on team offense. Yeah,
because the reason I feel that way is that Waddle also collapsed, and also that Tyreek wasn't really that inefficient last
collapsed year. Inefficiency as well.
In rushing efficiency, he mega collapsed. Yeah. He was slightly better as a receiver, but he just got fed targets. Tyreek Hill wasn't like crazy inefficient last year. He just was way less efficient than he was the previous year, but that is in part because he was facing mega negative regression headwinds. Then he was always going to kind of decline some. The problem, though, even if you think that it was more the offense than Tyreek being washed, is that one, he's still going to be old this year, so he might become washed at some point this year. So it's not like the age thing doesn't matter. It does.
Last year was a fake age cliff, and then this year is the real.
He could hit the real age cliff.
Yeah,
so that's still looming. He will hit the age cliff at some point. The other thing is that the offense was like this because they had a quarterback who has serious concussion issues, and if he takes hits, he will potentially miss the entire season. And he has a horrible offensive line that can't protect him.
Oh, and who's the backup, by the way? It's probably someone really good.
And now the backup is Zach Wilson.
Oh, it's not someone good.
It's even worse potentially than last year. All of these things remain true. The offensive line, I don't know what is going on. Like, why it has been a dire need for them to fix this offensive line, just from like a football perspective.
They added a bunch of guys.
Not really. The line is still bad.
No, man, I really forget who wrote this the other day. This is good. This is going to be really tilting.
Didn't they just add like a second round pick or someone? Like,
no, they did. They did multiple things. Oh, this is going to drive me nuts. I really wish that I could retain offensive line information, but
they lost Armstead.
But Armstead, oh fuck, who wrote? I think it was Gretsch. You know what? It was Gretsch. So let me go and find this.
Yeah, I'm looking at all of their transactions. So like, I don't see. Frankly,
here's the PFF write-up. They put this out a day ago. This is the 2025 offensive line rankings. Obviously, not definitive. We'll get lots of people doing their offensive line analysis heading in, but they have the Dolphins with the 25th ranked line. Says Teron Armstead's retirement sends one of the NFL's best offensive tackles to the sideline,
but he barely played.
To feel the impact. They've got a second-round pick, Patrick Paul, is projected to start at left tackle. That was their 2024 second-round pick.
Last year.
He struggled as a rookie. Now he's their starting left tackle. They picked up James Daniels, and they had a second-round draft pick, Jonah Savainia, and that should help solidify the interior.
So that's three new guys. And
it's not
any of us,
it's two new guys.
One of them is a guy who wasn't
rookie
good
who's
enough to
going
start
play
for them
left tackle.
previously, who has to play because their good player retired.
It's a probable bust filling in at left tackle for Armstead and two new players. And none of these guys were first round picks.
Wait, hold on. Giga Brain from the chat. Remember, left tackle, not as important for a left-handed quarterback. Right tackle, more important.
Do you think he's less likely to get a concussion if he sees the guy smashing him to the ground? I don't.
This is all I'm saying. It's probable that the Miami Dolphins offensive line is not going to be one of the league's best units. But if you made me wager -110 one way or the other, will the Dolphins offensive line be a storyline for the entire season the way it was last year? I would bet no, -110, just because that is kind of the way offensive line stuff works. Like, offensive lines are rarely huge problems the year before, then huge problems again the next year, because like all the organizational focus is on devising different protection schemes, figuring out what this guy can do, figuring out what this guy can do, and just playing things in a different way. That would be my guess.
My concern though is that, like, because this is fine, says, was their O-line good in 2023 or 2022? No, it wasn't. But Tua dealt with the concussion in 2023 that I think kind of changed things. And we see last year he had a concussion, and it's like Tua's going to IR with this. Like, he's missing a huge chunk of games the second he has a concussion. We know it's different with Tua and the concussions. It's not like any other quarterback is back there. So it's a much bigger concern that the offensive line is still looking pretty weak. Maybe it's not the worst in the league, but it's below average at the very best.
Right.
And it's probably among the 10 worst offensive lines in the league. And that's just a bad spot to be in if you've got Tua, which I don't know how much control Mike McDaniel has had over not fixing the offensive line, which I think is a big mistake. But I do give him credit for understanding I got to get the ball out super, super quick here. And I think that's the big thing with Tyreek. Now, the question for me with the Jonnu trade is, does that come back to Tyreek? Do they start to incorporate Tyreek more? And we have seen them do stuff where, the quick motion stuff, and, they've added a new wrinkle basically every year to try to get Tyreek more involved, take advantage of his speed. My hope would be that new wrinkle is for short targets to Tyreek that help replace some of the Jonnu stuff, and that he can just get fed that way. But I don't expect this offense to be able to kind of take flight again because of the offensive line and because of who they're protecting.
This is going to sound stupid, but that is like future Davis's problem. That is like week 4 NFL DFS Davis's problem.
What?
What are you talking about?
What?
Because I think it's really dumb to try and control for that right now, because
week 1 is all that matters.
No, because in a scenario where the Dolphins offensive line plays like roughly fine, they're like the 19th best pass block graded offensive line in the NFL, you're going to feel like a moron for being.
I don't think I will. I think that's where we disagree the most.
I'm going to feel okay fading Tyreek Hill. This is like, I hate doing this because it's not like it's not like because last year in a completely different situation it worked out very well that it's going to work out the same way again. But like, I just cannot help feel like this Tyreek Hill move up and everything that's happening right now, and me getting flamed on every podcast, is just like literally exactly how I felt about Cooper Kupp the entire offseason last year, where it was like this cheap price that I like had no interest in. And then he moved up, and then everybody's like, you got to get in, like getting good reports, like he's back. And it's just like, no, like to me, I'm like, I don't have an interest in like trying to parse. Like, to me, it's just a simple bet. When I have an over 30 wide receiver who starts to massively decline, I don't have interest in parsing out, is it injury? Is it offensive line? Is it what? Like, to me, one of the reasons why their offense was bad last year might be because Tyreek Hill wasn't as good anymore. And that might be partially what broke their offense. Like, I'm very confident that on the aggregate, not paying round 2 prices for over 30 wide receivers whose efficiency falls off the cliff is going to be the right decision. It might not be the right decision on this specific case, but I think from a process perspective, he remains overpriced, and he's getting more so, and I'm very happy to just full.
Well, he's moving in a range. So I have 4% Hill. It's not like I'm, I wasn't like super in, but I wasn't also doing like the big time mega fade that you were doing. And so, I'm kind of a little bit more nervous. I was at 5% in BBM. So, I was dabbling. As he moves up, though, you are looking at a kind of different tier of opportunity cost. I mean, you have Trey McBride going there. You've got, Rashee Rice is kind of moving up in tandem, but if it was sitting at the 2-3 turn, I had a chance to take Rashee Rice or Tyreek Hill. I'm slamming Rashee Rice. T. Higgins is there. You also have Bucky Irving, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, even, I think. Josh Jacobs is going off a really strong season, so I don't know. I guess you're moving to a different group of players that when it was Tyreek Hill versus Devontae Adams and Mike Evans, I was just like, okay, all these guys could be washed. Let me just take the dude with the mega ceiling, the nuclear ceiling.
Obviously,
Evans
it's
isn't washed
harder
yet.
now.
Evans shown no indication of decline.
Sure, but he's old enough to where
lower body injury.
He could.
Last
right.
year.
But we know. But what I don't understand is like we have these 3 old wide receivers. Well, they used to all go in the third.
Because I think the decline thing is kind of fake. Like I think it's a bad framing. Like
I agree with
Kareem. He had the same yards per route run as JSN last year. I think he was slightly higher.
This is how people were Cooper coping last year. Like yes, I understand that these guys have farther to fall because they were better. I don't care about what their actual numbers are. I care about the decline.
I care about what the actual numbers are. That matters a lot more to me than the decline.
I disagree. I think it's because we know that the decline is extremely steep at the wide receiver position and often irreversible. So I don't think this is actually true in this case. I think it's less about where the numbers are now. I think you're catching a falling knife. I think it's like I care less about
I certainly agree with you at these prices, but
numbers and looking at, okay, well, how are this? Because to me, it's like you're looking at a graph that is like here and you're trying to stop it in one specific portion. I think often the reason why we see these numbers get propped up is because you're catching a lag where this offense had a person in their plans and then they realize it's not the same player anymore and they have to change plans. And so they're getting inflated numbers because they're trying to build around a superstar who isn't that superstar anymore. He's just a guy wearing his jersey.
I think your argument would be a lot stronger if Waddle had done anything last year. But Waddle was
I get that.
Absolutely evaporated from the offense as well. They couldn't get the ball to the receivers. Also, like, I know I am parsing it, but like I wrote this up every week. It was just crystal clear what was happening. Like it was predictable. You'd go into it, they're going to have to pass, but they're all going to just pass a bunch to Achane and Jonnu because they cannot do anything else other than get the ball out in like 2.4 seconds. Like that's their whole game plan.
So why would they not get the ball out fast to Tyreek Hill if he was still good? He's like they used to.
Well,
they used to, and they did some. I mean, it's just they didn't have the same.
Tyreek, even in Kansas City, like his absolute peak, it wasn't like you think about, oh man, what was the peak Tyreek play? It was never like, a quick alert screen or whatever to him. Like that wasn't really his game. He's not like a tackle breaker. Like it's more like you want to get.
They did that
ball.
Way more in Miami when he first got there. That's part of why he had a way higher ceiling in Miami. By the way, Matt Harmon yesterday, this was like, I mean, do you want to talk about tweets that I want to see on my timeline? Those once terrifying dig routes to Tyreek Hill down there in Miami were not very scary last year, especially against man coverage. Looking forward to the reception perception. I'm very intrigued to see the results when that comes out.
This is one where you and I don't really fully agree here, but if the price changes, then I think we do agree because there's enough inherent risk where I'm going to be like, hey man, this guy, he wasn't that efficient. Like he did fall off to a level that I don't love. It's not like, okay, he's definitely washed. But if he's going to move up to the 2-3 turn, there's a ton of risk there. And it's also like you're now moving into a group of guys who have really big upsides. So now, like, to me, the thing with Hill that made him more appealing at the end of the third, or even kind of the mid to end of the third, is that I do think that he has the ceiling of a guy kind of more at the 2-3 turn. Fair. So it's like, all right, I'm getting a discount. I'm getting the ceiling and I'm not having to pay full price. But now if he moves up to the 2-3 turn, I'm like, Rashee Rice could easily outscore Tyreek, even if he hasn't fallen off. Like there's a lot, and and he's not the only one there. You know, there was a question here about Tyreek's potential price next year. And I think that's a helpful way to frame it. Like, where do you think he gets drafted?
Well, because of the way underdog drafters behave, basically, like age decline is priced in even if it's unseen, right? Devontae Adams being priced like there's age-related decline we haven't seen. Derrick Henry. I guess Derrick Henry a little bit less this year. Joe Mixon. Like, it's just the way
you can turn the tide. I mean, Barkley's going like 4th.
Barkley's 28 years
comes
old.
back and he has his 2023 season. He'll probably go in like the early 2nd or 1-2 turn. Like he won't go at the 103 like he used to, but he'll go. I would expect at the 1-2 turn.
I'm gonna run
a 2023 season, but he could also go where Cooper Kupp goes right now if he has a not very good season.
Let's do a quick stat head filter for his aging cohort, and I want Jacob, who is more numerically strenuous than I am, to help me run it. What parameters would you set to find a good cohort for Tyreek's age 2024 season, and then check their N+1s?
Oh God,
like 115 targets, 5 or more touchdowns, 900 or more yards. How many scrimmage yards did he have?
But that's like, that doesn't capture it. Like to me, like you have to look at like, and I wouldn't think of how to do this for these names, but like you'd have to be looking at guys who
were really good before,
and then had like a year that is like what you're describing, that is good for most players, but like quite bad for them. It's a very specific case.
All right,
because like otherwise you're gonna get like Cortland Suttons in your sample, but like Tyreek Hill is like a fundamentally different type of bet.
I just am not as sure that like because he fell off, it means we're like he has hit this irreversible and very steep decline that ends, you know, in him being absolutely
Larry Fitzgerald came back. Obviously, different style of player.
Yeah,
all right, here I'm gonna share my.
Like his season really, especially given the context around the Dolphins' inability to move the ball downfield, it really wasn't that bad. But again, if he moves up to the 2, I kind of hope he moves up to the 2-3 turn, and I can just, you know, stand.
Well, he's up there now. He's currently in round 2.
Yeah. All right. Well, then good. Then we agree at this point.
Share this.
I gotta remove this
screen.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So this is age 30, 31 from 2010 to now. 115 targets, 900 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. Pretty interesting that Tyreek's season from last year is all the way at the bottom of this list in terms of PPR points.
Didn't you just set the filter of mins plus?
Yes, but theoretically, if you're setting the mins
that's
plus,
why it's at the bottom.
That's how that works.
Well, oftentimes when I run this, I find that these guys are roughly in the middle of in terms of PPR points, because I didn't set a PPR point filter.
I see. Okay.
So generally speaking, when you're doing this, you'd like him to be in a banded range that's like you can kind of squint and see anything. I gotta say, my first instinct on looking at this is a little bearish about Tyreek specifically.
The Larry one is that's intriguing.
You've got Larry, you've got Devontae Adams, you've got Roddy White.
Right, where's Devontae? Oh yeah, he's like up there about 117 points higher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, touchdowns obviously are a huge. You know what? I kind of think Roddy White is sort of an interesting comparison.
What did Roddy White do after that specific season?
I mean, he was awesome. He had
counterpoint here, guys.
Yeah.
Unicorns are not found in the zoo.
Wow.
I don't even know 100% what that means, but it's a definite bar.
I don't know what it means, but it's provocative.
But it's provocative. It gets people going.
People going. People are getting going in the chat. The chat is alight.
Yeah.
With Dave, that is a bar. Not gonna lie.
That is a bar. Now you want to know what a real bearish one would be Lockett, age 30 to age 31, where like the age cliff found him. And he did not come back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing the presence of the age cliff. I think the way we find the age cliff is maybe a slightly different process, but at this point, we agree that it is too risky at the current ADP. Let's attempt to talk about a second riser here before it turns 11 my time.
Are you still a complete Jaylen Waddle hater, Pat, or have you opened your mind to?
Yeah, I don't get the argument that the Waddle argument is Tyreek fell off because he's old. And so that's actually good for Waddle. Waddle fell off because of the offense and not because he was sort of propped up by the McDaniel shenanigans. And the fact that he was actually worse than Tyreek Hill last year, who's an aging receiver and inevitable decline, isn't a big deal because Tyreek's going to decline further and Waddle will be fine. I don't know. I feel like we're just like bending ourselves into a pretzel. Like to me, I think the offense wasn't right last year. I don't have a lot of confidence that it will be right. And even with Tyreek falling off, Waddle was still worse. And so he's probably still the wide receiver 2 on his own team in an offense that went from being really exciting to being kind of scary as far as the wide receiver production goes. And now that Jonnu's gone, there's optimism that Waddle, is going to get some of the design stuff, or it'll just be a bigger part of the offense. And the price has moved up to reflect that. So no, I think we moved Waddle up, but I still find him to be kind of a tough click. And I honestly hope he continues to rise because it's sort of the same thinking where I feel more risk, I think, than you do on Tyreek. So I would rather just feel confident that he's too expensive.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm getting a little uncomfortable at this price. Most of my slam Waddle was back at his big board price. Even since BBM, it has been in the mid-5th. It's been a target for me, but not a massive one. I'll say two things. First off, I can see that if you're just trying to do this is a formal logic class, and you're trying to draw the string around the easiest path, that you're correct. That it's a bit of an inside straight to be well, Tyreek was old, but Waddle's actually fun. I get all that part. I think the logical explanation.
Yeah, that I gotta say, I gotta say, I'm just from philosophical hierarchy. I'm not buying being world's biggest Jaylen Waddle buyer while also simultaneously being
I think I have 9% Jaylen Waddle, so I would not say I'm the world's.
All right. Well, I think of
Jaylen
you as
Waddle
being
buyer,
the Jaylen Waddle guy.
I think another explanation to me would just be that everything was kind of broken, and so they just focused on easier stuff. And it was broken because Tua was hurt. It was broken because Tyreek was not as good. It was broken because Waddle was injured constantly, and they just never had any opportunity to solidify around him. And they just started doing what's the easiest thing we can do, and that it was triage offense. And then the other argument that I guess I find more persuasive to me personally, but I suspect nobody else will find persuasive because it's not neat, is just that the world works in mysterious ways. And I think that more often than not, we try to overanalyze why things happen. And I would rather just take the zoomed out view of the trends without trying to attach a specific reason for each individual circumstance. And to me, I'm looking at it from a zoomed out view, and I'm Tyreek Hill, older player, seems to be in fairly substantial decline. Waddle, prime age player, coming off of 2 straight years, 2.5 yards per out run, consistently good target earner under multiple coaching staffs.
And then what
happened? Make any sense to me that he would be bad now? I just don't know the precedent for it. So I'm just much less concerned about his down year than Tyreek's.
I am convinced that last year was kind of related to the need to get the ball out quickly, and you're hearing again that Tua's big focus this year is getting the ball out even quicker. I do concede though that I'm making an assumption that that's how it'll work this year, and my assumption's based on still having Tua and still not having a good offensive line. But that could be totally wrong. I guess what I would say is even if I'm right that the reason last year's offense looked like it did was because of specific personnel stuff that we all feel we observed. And that is why. It doesn't mean that it's then going to happen again in 2025. And it could return more to what we saw in 2023. That's definitely possible. I guess my thing is I still think Tyreek would be the primary beneficiary there, but maybe he has fallen off and it's actually Waddle. We had a comment here that to me kind of crystallizes, like, why would we bet on Waddle when you could take like a George Pickens? Like, if you're going to do a double stack of these receivers, why wouldn't you want to have Pickens, who's coming off a very efficient season after another very efficient season in 2023, who's never had good quarterback play. He's never had an offensive coordinator that we really respect at all. And now he's moving to, maybe the coaching isn't what we want, but he's moving to Dak Prescott and an offense that could lean on the pass. This is a really, really big quarterback upgrade for him. And he's a young player who's ascending. I don't have to like do this bounce back stuff. I can just take a guy who looks to be on the rise. There's a lot of opportunity cost here for Waddle. Someone was asking about, what's the difference between the 5th and the 6th? It's the players that you're giving up to take Waddle. And I do think he's moved into a range of guys that I have a harder time clicking him now. Even with a slightly improved opinion of how a season might look after the Johnny trade.
Yeah, well, I'm 9% Waddle and 24% Pickens, so no argument on Pickens.
All right, let's do Crane. Let's do the Fallers. We don't need to talk about Kittle, Dobbins, or any of these guys. We also need to get to the tight end discourse before we do.
All right.
Last call at some point, because I think it is pretty interesting. So we have Jonnu. That one is pretty obvious. Firemouth, pretty obvious. Barkley is, I don't really think we need to talk about it. I think the market is just sort of realizing that the wide receivers are better picks. We are going to get
it's peak slappy. It's not maybe not peak slappy, but it's all up. We're all just
it's real slappy.
There's no one has come into this party in about 3 weeks.
Correct. And I think Zach has another Bowers and McBride slide for us to do. So let's do Hunter here. How much of this is the slightly bearish quotes from minicamp talking about how the team views him as a cornerback first? The reason why he was practicing a wide receiver was because I think he has more to learn there. How much of it is the slappies kind of getting some cold water in their face? First you wake up the night after a binge and you're like, Jesus Christ, maybe we don't take a defensive back in the 4th round. For what it's worth, I actually am taking more Hunter now than I was before, where I thought Jacob was being irresponsible before. But now that my decisions are Cortland Sutton or Travis Hunter or Calvin Ridley or Travis Hunter, to me, those are not really decisions. I think you take the guy who just went number 2 in the NFL draft and it gets comps to like Justin Jefferson. Like, to me, he feels quite easy. And I also want to make a note here, because I have continually been getting this everywhere. Brett Jones just said the Bears notes for Hunter are the Vegas over-under lines. If you are drafting your fantasy football teams to win $2 million on Underdog Fantasy based off of median projections from a game that is designed for you to be able to beat it, right? The higher lowers on Underdog. I don't know, man. Just go put your money in Vanguard or something. That is not how the game. Your goal, looking at a median projection, should be to try and beat that line. You should be saying this is something that Underdog or wherever is not.
Well, and also like with Travis Hunter, you're looking at a guy with a really wide range of outcomes, where like there's times where you don't beat that line by a lot because he's a cornerback. There's also times where you beat that line by a lot because he plays receiver a bunch and he's really good.
He has probably the widest standard deviation of literally any player in the pool.
Yeah. So that's where I would kind of push back on that kind of frame, is like, hey, that's like literally a different game with different ways to win.
Yeah, different. You have there's just way different incentives there.
Yeah, there's extremely different incentives. Guys with really wide range of outcomes there aren't super helpful, where they're actually extremely helpful at the right price in a game like Best Ball Mania.
Yeah, the Hunter thing, his ADP is like not fall. It's not falling to the degree that the sentiment is negative, and I guess that's just a function of this game where like it really only matters what the highest person on Hunter in each.
I was going to say it's a function of the slappies,
right? So it's like, yes, like it seems like in every draft pod, like especially if you just like filter by Twitter that it's like, yeah, there's probably 9 people in your draft room who
the case
would
says it
never
should be in the
click Travis
80s.
Hunter, right? Like there's people like, I mean, I was arguing with someone on Twitter yesterday who like thinks that De'Ami Brown is like very likely going to outscore Travis Hunter. So it's like
someone
like
who's
that
never
in
watched
every
De'Ami Brown play.
So there are people like that in every room. So there's like 8 people who are not even, interested in Travis Hunter whatsoever. But like all that really matters is what the one person who clicks and thinks. And so that's why his ADP will continue to stay higher despite people's extreme anger at the audacity of people taking an interest in trying to win a best ball tournament. But I would say that I'm not scooping the value as much as I thought that I would, because part of why I was so high on him earlier is because there's like no one in the 4th or the early 4th that I like have any interest in outside of Marion Hampton and Tet McMillan and Travis Hunter. Whereas there's like actually more players at the 4-5 turn that I actually just like straight up better than most of the players in the early 4th. So like I like Pickens better than like because the other guys that range outside of the elite quarterback. So I have taken more of them. But like once Brees goes, it's like I do like Tet, and I'm interested in Hampton, who's also falling. But like I don't care at all about like James Cook. I don't care at all about Kyron. I don't really like Worthy, though I've mixed him in. I don't like Jameson at all. So it's like I prefer George Pickens and Kittle and Hurts and Waddle to all of those guys anyhow. So I wouldn't say that I'm like scooping him that much more. If he falls even further and he could ever get to like the 5-6 turn, that would be excellent, because there's literally only 2 players I ever collect at the 5-6 turn. It's Trevion Henderson and Chris Olave. It'd be great to have a third. But yeah, it's been, I don't know. I haven't been scooping as much as I had hoped, but I would love him to fall a little, because then you could even get Thomas in the early 2 and then Hunter in the late 5th. If that's the thing you can do more often, that would be really, really fun. Yeah.
I wonder if that's where we're headed, because that's like really fun if you can get that to happen. You could also see Thomas, becoming a little bit more of a second rounder if his Achane moves up. And so like if you're getting Thomas, let's say, you can kind of more reliably get Thomas at the 202, maybe 203, then, Hunter doesn't have to fall quite as far. And you're like, oh, I want those. I want that Hunter Thomas double stack. I don't want to have to take just Hunter without Thomas. I don't know. Maybe that would be fun. I just want this to happen. I'm just wish casting, to be honest. But
I think it will. I mean,
wouldn't it be great
to fall?
wouldn't it be nice?
He's continuing to fall, and like as we get more and more into August, you get more and more non-slappies and drafts, and like the non-slappies like hate this guy. I don't it's like a psychological thing. I don't understand. I don't understand why
they hate them so much. They've
don't
talked
like
themselves
drafting fun players, but anyway, they don't.
They hate them so much that they have talked themselves into De'Ami Brown, like just a player with basically 0 good results ever playing.
He doesn't have 800 yards
football.
Receiving in 4 years.
CBK, can you throw in some more comments like this? I just want to see if we can get how tilted we can get Jacob here. Jaden Reed over Hunter, easy.
Yeah, like it doesn't tilt me, because like I was doing research for column that's out. Well, half of it is out on Thinking, and I'm looking at like the old rookie prices, and like that actually tilted me. Like it tilted me thinking like, the best chance that I would ever have to win this tournament has already passed, because like Garrett Wilson used to be drafted as wide receiver 59 as the 10th overall pick.
But did Garrett Wilson have to tackle Jonathan Taylor between offensive series?
But it's like, and it tilts me greatly that like we no longer live in that era. But like seeing comments like this, it's like, oh, good. Actually, like there are still people who play this game that like are just playing player props in tournament form.
Jacoby Myers over Hunter. Are you tilted yet?
If you guys,
like,
I
truly don't understand
that,
like what leads, like
yeah.
what are the decisions that we make in our lives that lead us here to where we're like that. I just can't comprehend.
He's getting philosophical. We almost got him. All right, Dobbs over Hunter. Actually, he doesn't believe that one. That's just to tilt you.
Oh, we got Sky Moore over Hunter. That I don't think someone believes.
Sky Moore over
Hunter. That's like that you bluff too much, sir. Call. I don't think you believe that.
Hunter over McLaurin. Oh, we got a bull. See, this is where,
by the way,
this is why the
that's
ADP
my
won't
guy.
fall. Yeah.
I was gonna. It's what's really funny is these people, the Hunter has to tackle Jonathan Taylor people, like they are doing the reverse of what I said earlier. Like, oh, that's future Davis's problem. Like they're saying, like, oh, the fact that Travis Hunter is this awesome wide receiver, that's future me's problem. Like they're doing the reverse. Like they're gonna have this come to Jesus moment in like week 3 when Hunter has like a 9 reception, 111 yard, 2 touchdown game. And like also has like a great pass breakup on defense or something. There's going to have to be like, oh, actually fantasy football, particularly top heavy tournaments like this, are a game of being better at identifying outliers. Like if you basically, not to say that there even is a skill in identifying outliers, there probably is, but if you don't give yourself a chance to draft outliers at all, and you're just like, yeah, dude, my wide receiver room of Jacoby Myers, Darius Slayton, Romeo Doubs, like I'm ready to go to war. Basically, what you are doing is you are saying, I'm actually not interested in winning. Like, I just want to advance.
That's actually true.
Teams.
I actually don't think, there's 2 ways to look at we're all going to lose anyways. That's something I earnestly believe. One of those is to be like, look, this is an extremely unimaginably top heavy tournament. We shouldn't really be that worried about median outcomes. We shouldn't even be worried about like 90th percentile outcomes. Like it requires like 99th percentile outcomes to win this. 99.999.
Not on the player level, on the team level.
On the team level, but like it also is a weekly based game, and 3 of the 4 sections are 1 week scenarios. So like we should be focused on specifically targeting who are the players most likely to have weekly ceiling in weeks 15 through 17, because that is 75% of the stages. And that's way higher than 75% of the EV that gets calculated in that period. So I just am not really that concerned about like season losing or team losing picks from that standpoint. But I think
you may have answered this question already then, but there's a lot of concern in the chat about not just how much he plays on offense, but the fact that he's playing on defense, that he's going to potential face bigger injury risks. Are you handcuffing him at all with Jerrion Jones or Tyson Campbell?
Yeah, that is something to consider. But I actually think that there's like this is a legitimate psychological, like philosophical point of view that I have, is that like, because 99.9% of us will not win, that I think a lot of people actually don't try to win, especially in the social media age. I think they just draft teams so that they can post things on Twitter to feel good. And like the way to do that is like advance rate, I think, primarily. And so I think people are optimizing a lot for advance rate to like feel good. And they want to have takes that are right, as in like my player was better than X player. And like it's a pretty good bet to be an anti-Hunter person on that level, because like there's obviously
I
like
agree.
Very clearly discernible ways where it could fail, and
fail big.
You could have a take that is like insert 13th round wide receiver will actually outscore Travis Hunter, and like it's like on that level a 1v1 bet. You take any other 13th round player versus any other 5th round player, and like your odds are very bad. But your odds betting against Hunter with like Romeo Doubs are like actually reasonable. Like it's not that hard to envision Romeo Doubs outscoring Travis Hunter this year. So like I think that it's a reasonable way to play it from that point of view.
This sums up that if Slayton outscores Hunter, winning. It genuinely wouldn't
I agree, actually. It genuinely wouldn't be surprising. I agree.
It'd be pretty surprising.
I don't think that has any impact on how I draft personally, but I agree that it wouldn't be that surprising.
It'd be pretty surprising.
Here's maybe one way to kind of frame the Hunter stuff, though, because people are saying like I would take Golden ahead of him, and CBK is now coming after my guy, who I didn't even expect to be my guy, but Luther Burden, Olamide versus
that's not
Burden.
Really. Oh, I read that as a Doomsday versus Burden, and I was like, that's not that hot of a take, but Olamide, okay.
No, it's pretty hot. It's a pretty hot take.
Why do people hate rookies? Like, why are there people that are convinced that rookies are bad picks? Like, I literally had this argument on, like, sorry, I'm
because
like,
they've been burned by
all over you.
rookies.
But like,
Rookies burn
someone tweeted out yesterday, or like last week, it was like Marvin Harrison last year is proof that now rookies are overdrafted. It's like literally look at a board from last year after Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, good pick. Brian Thomas, fantastic pick. One of the best picks in all of fantasy last year. Lad McConkey
went right next to him.
All of fantasy last year. Brock Bowers, like arguably the best pick in all of fantasy last. Like, so it's just like Jaden Daniels was the best quarterback pick. Like, what are we doing? Like, Bucky Irving was one of the best late round picks. Like, every single year, even last year, rookies make up an extremely disproportionate portion of the big hits. And last year, if you even just looked at it as like a binary, good pick, bad pick, there were way more good than bad in the early rounds. So, like, I don't understand why people still have in their mind that, like, everybody's just overhyping the rookies. Happens every year. And it's like, no, that doesn't happen every year.
The chat is doing it. Literally, the chat is doing it right now. Blake Corum, great pick. What percentage of rookies actually meet their draft price? This is just not the mental framework to evaluate this tournament.
Yeah,
or
you
really
need to have
any
teams,
tournament.
or really any tournament, because, you know, to Jacob's point about needing to hit these really high-end outcomes, you need to hit it on the team level. You need to stack bets that win together, but those bets need to win pretty big. So, or at least you need to have some guys that are crushing ADP paired with dudes who are also hits. So, I mean, the biggest rookie pushback that I would accept is like, I've definitely drafted teams with too many rookies, you know, and there are going to be rookies who absolutely crush us this year and are zeros. You know, and I was drafting a bunch of Sky Moore. Like I've
guess
I've
what? There's
taken
also going to
my
be a bunch
here.
of veterans. There's also going to be a bunch of veterans who suck ass.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's very true. But I will say rookies
don't count. Actually, that doesn't count. If you draft a veteran who sucks ass, it's actually just a good pick.
How did drafting Najee Harris work for you, dude? Congratulations on your 7% advance rate, brother.
I mean, there is something to the idea of like a rookie can stay healthy, you know, and in the 8th round do nothing. Like Quentin Johnston just being a total bust of an 8th round pick without getting hurt, you know, and that really hurts. It's painful. Keon Coleman, like, just like, well, this team sucks now and it could have been awesome. It is painful to have these rookie busts. And I think they're kind of like, you know, a little bit of salt in a dish where you got to figure out the right way to add them to your teams to make sure you're not like just taking on inordinate amount of risk. But the idea that like rookies are systemically overpriced, I think is really wrong. I agree with you there. Yeah. And I think like the other thing is if you don't add any salt to your dish, it's just going to be super bland in a tournament where you need some zest, you need some pop to actually win this thing. Like Luther Burden, I don't know, man. That seems like maybe you're like, oh, Garrett Wilson will never get another shot at this. Like, I don't think I think their ceilings are pretty comparable in year one as prospects. Now, long term,
that's not true.
I think it is. I think Luther Burden, given the situation that he has, given the explosiveness that he has as a player, given the kind of the pedigree he had headed into last year, my concern with Burden are all about kind of floor and what's most likely. But if you think about like what does this guy look like at the top end in an offense with Ben Johnson, with an actual quarterback, unlike Garrett Wilson has ever had, really, then yeah, I think the ceiling's pretty close. And he's I think cheaper now than Wilson was going.
He's not quite, but he's
not
close.
Quite. Okay. He's getting close. He's falling every day.
Getting close. I resent that 39th overall pick, Luther Burden, as the wide receiver 3 on the Bears is the same upside as 10th overall pick, wide receiver 1, Garrett Wilson. But I agree that it's an incredible pick. It's
Zach Wilson is doing a lot of my work for me there. A lot of my work.
But he was going into year 2 and had a pretty similar rookie year to Caleb. So maybe they're kind of the same bet, actually.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. But it's reminiscent at the very least. It's not the same ceiling, I'll give it to you, but it is reminiscent. And it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I don't know how many more times we're going to get a rookie with this high of upside in like the 125 range, you know, like, come on. Like you're just sitting because he falls too. Like whatever, I think his ADP is still in the 1 teens, but he falls. And on DraftKings, you're it's like, should I take? That's where it is. Like people do think Darius Slayton is going to go, going to score more points than him because he's basically going ahead of him now. It's kind of crazy on DraftKings how far he's fallen.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Burden is one of the biggest reasons I enter drafts right now, for sure.
Yeah. Paul sums it up. Could be an awful pick or a great one. Makes him a good pick in BBM.
He's just like absolutely free expected value.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. Next slide. I don't remember which one it is. There we go. So I just thought this was very interesting. This is like really anecdotally that I've noticed, which is that Bowers and McBride are falling a little bit as Kittle, Kraft. It's actually, so anecdotally, I do not feel that Njoku and Kraft are going later, which is funny that they're both negative spots. The last couple weeks, I feel like for me and the way I've been drafting, they're going a little bit earlier, but there is something going on. I've seen Bowers go in the 3rd. I've seen him get to pick like 26 before. I've seen McBride go. I've seen McBride go in the 4th.
Oh my God.
All right. I'm going to be drafting after this if you need me.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna actually go and like lick something with COVID, so I can't go into work for 2 weeks. So I can just draft Brock Bowers.
And I think
still works in Canada.
There's I
gotta find a spot.
Well, there's a couple things going on here. The first one being, I assume big fantasy football is starting to beat the negative Bowers drum and the negative McBride drum. And then big fantasy football always about this time of year starts to get hip to George Kittle. And the super bearish Ayuk stuff as well, I think is boosting.
Well, Kittle price has just not made sense the entire time, and now it is starting to.
Yeah, I mean,
there was just no possible reason he ever should have been a 5th-round pick. He was a 5th-round pick last year, a later one, but he was like a late 5th last year, or 5-6 turn pick, while McCaffrey was going 101, and Ayuk and Debo were both going in the 2nd round. And then he went up like 7 picks in ADP, coming off of his best season in a while, actually. Certainly no decline. While McCaffrey was going at the 1-2 turn. And then instead of their 2 top wide receivers going both in round 2, they had a guy going in round 6, round 7, and an injured guy going in, I think, round 7, round 8. So it was like, what? Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Their defense also got way worse. And their quarterback played, in my opinion, the best season he's ever played. And they passed more than they had previously. So, like, Kittle's price has just never made any sense this whole tournament. He's actually, I think, is still my highest drafted tight end out of Bowers. So I still think he's a fine pick in the mid-4th, actually, but just less of like a complete auto pick, I guess.
Yeah. I don't have as much Kittle as I like. I'm overweight, but I don't have as much as I want because I've taken so much McBride.
Well, you guys were ripping on me for doing the double elite tight end move, so.
Did I rip on you? I think it's fine. McBride's my highest drafted tight end.
The double elite.
McBride's your highest drafted tight end. Interesting.
It's hard to have. I mean, so I have 25% McBride and 23% Bowers. So it's not.
So I only have 8% McBride, but I have exactly those numbers. I have 25% Bowers and I have 23% Kittle.
I'm at 11% Kittle. So I played it more from the McBride side. I wish I had played it from the Kittle side since he's rising and McBride's falling, but McBride, I think even McBride to me is just a different type of bet than Kittle. And it's like, it's easier for me to see kind of how week in, week out McBride is delivering in a way where Kittle has been this elite spike week creator. Maybe that changes this year, but he gives you that. It's like him and Bowers give you that mix of the elite spike weeks. And McBride, I think the immediate pushback would be, what are you talking about? He doesn't score touchdowns. He plays a ton on play action. He always has. The touchdown stuff by a number of different measures looks really fluky. that he's not scored touchdowns like this. I view the
dude,
touchdowns
it's just like
as
9 straight years of fluky shit for Trey McBride. It's just crazy.
It's
to me, it's a Davis. Do you want to tell me what he was doing 9 years ago, Mr. Hyperbolic dude?
I think I actually
Trey
did
McBride
look.
was playing football.
Davis has his high school stats.
No, I think I did. I think I did look up his high school stats.
Davis, what filters are you putting in right now for highschoolreference.com?
All right, we got to see if I have Trey McBride's max preps up. Let's do a good guess. What do we think? All right, this is actually funnier than I could possibly imagine. Guess the amount of touchdowns Trey McBride's senior year of high school before he attended Colorado State.
3.
Funniest possible
or did he just
answer.
play basketball?
He played football.
Okay. If it's funny, I'll guess. I don't know. 1.
1.
That is the funniest answer.
What is the funniest answer?
Davis, that was an incredible moment for you to pull up his high school stats and it would be 1 touchdown after just ripping out. You said 9 with no real idea of what you were getting yourself into, and then to just get bailed out. It was just perfect. Well done.
I think it. By the way, I mean, obviously,
I was seeing exactly what you wanted there.
Obviously, that's like not the way football works. And if he scores 10 touchdowns this year, that would just be real regression. Like, I'm not actually saying that Trey McBride can't score touchdowns, but I mean, like, to me, I think that there is like a very real chance that Bowers is the story of the season, because if you add in the amount of volume he got as like an Amon-Ra St. Brown style, like basically he was like a possession receiver for them last year. If you just give him 1 year, and I don't know if it'll ever happen, maybe it'll happen this year, maybe it'll never happen, of a Gronk level touchdown rate where he scores a touchdown per game. Like, I don't think Bowers is obviously not that level of player. Like Gronk is the greatest touchdown per game, touchdown per target player of all time. But any season that it does happen for Bowers where he scores that, like, I mean, he's 3rd in the NFL in targets last year. He is going to be the story of the season. You will be excluded from winning without him.
Gronk to me is such a more impressive NFL player than Bowers now, or would I ever expect Bowers
100%,
to be, because
100%.
he's basically like a tackle who was also an incredible receiver.
He's basically like Calvin. Yeah. He was basically like Calvin Johnson, but also if Calvin Johnson was Lane Johnson,
like the best football player of all time.
Yeah. No, truly,
it's incredible. It's incredible. And Bowers is a good enough real tight end, and then a really, really good slot receiver, basically, which is less impressive. But it happens to fit our game extremely well. So, can he be the same kind of fantasy producer as these previous elites, Kelsey, Gronk? Yeah, I think he can. And we're getting him now falling for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, I've been perplexed with the Bowers stuff the whole way. He continues now to fall behind guys that he outscored last year.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of out of ideas why this is happening. I mean, it's foolish. But
because
I'm
big
23% Bowers, I'm gonna have a bag, and I'm
big
pretty
fantasy
happy
football.
About it.
Big fantasy football is against Bowers and McBride.
And I'm going to take more McBride. I'm actually really excited about how this has gone, because I got the great CLV on Kittle, and now he's moving up. So 41. So he's now no longer really in the range of I have to pass on McBride because I know Kittle's there for me at the 4-5 turn. We no longer know Kittle's there for me at the 4-5 turn. I also, part of the reason I wasn't taking so much McBride was because at the time you could get Rice in the early third, that 2-3 turn. Rice has now moved up solidly ahead of McBride. So gonna continue. So now it's going to be, I think, just like that second round pick for me, like in 60% of my, I think like 100% of my drafts. If like Achane and that group are off the board, like it's just going to be Bowers if he's there and McBride if he's not, and rock and roll, I think, is going to be the plan for the rest of the summer. It's pretty remarkable to me.
Nolan has a comment here. Worst case scenario is like a 10% advance rate guy. So almost half expected with spike week potential. Other cases, the guy you need. I think that's sort of the classic, like an elite tight end. It's probably hurting your advance rates a little bit, but you're getting that spike week potential in the playoffs. But like, I mean, anyone can be a 10% advance rate guy. We could be wrong. Bowers could just not have a good season at all and really hurt you. But I don't even think that's like the type of bet he is. You know, I expect him to be a strong advance rate player, even when he's not the guy you need, because he's going ahead of guys he outscored, and he's coming off an incredibly efficient tight end season, period. And he was a rookie. So and then he gets a huge quarterback upgrade. He gets a big coaching upgrade. Like, everything's kind of pointing in the direction that we would expect him to be ascending. And yet his ADP is falling. He's going behind dudes where I don't really see this strong case for them to be like better advance rate picks than him. Like, I think he just adds more points to my flex than a bunch of the guys that he's now going behind. So
yeah,
I don't really. I don't know.
The only compelling thing is that all of tight end is priced really weird. So, like, I agree. I think that Bowers and McBride don't actually require the positional scarcity argument to be good picks at ADP, because I think they will just score more points than the players they're being drafted around. But that is also true of the late tight ends and kind of almost even the mid tight ends. The difference to me is that argument is a lot more compelling in terms of building like the highest median projecting team. But part of the reason why we draft running backs and wide receivers that project worse ahead of tight ends from rounds like 10 through 18 is there's just wider bands on the running backs and receivers. The running backs have a lot of contingent value. A lot of those receivers are like young athletic players who in theory can do things that the tight ends just can't. So it's like, yeah, it makes sense that Hunter Henry will be a higher median than the receivers and running backs going around him. But like, Hunter Henry's band is extremely narrow. Like, he can only do so much. He's Hunter Henry. He's going to have 60 catches for 650 yards and 6 touchdowns or whatever. So to me, like, again, applying that tournament lens, the fact that you also get to score comparably in the early rounds at tight end, where the ceiling is also similar and the median is also similar, is just so much more compelling. And then, yeah, I'm okay sacrificing some of the late tight ends who score a little bit more, because like, I don't really want to waste 3 of my late bets on picks that like can't be league winning picks because they're like 4.82 dad running tight ends. So I just think it's like projection brain in a game that projections are helpful to, but in a game that is not decided by median projections. So I just don't think that they're particularly, like, that should not be our North Star for how we play best ball. It should be an input. They don't have to be ignored, but it shouldn't be like as simple as these guys project better at this range of the draft, so we take them. We have to understand why they project better and whether that's helpful to the actual game we're playing, which is a weekly one, which is weighted end of season and is very ceiling based.
Yeah, and projection being this is what I expect this player to score over the total of a season, reflecting kind of the range of outcomes boiled down into one stat line, which, as we just talked about with Travis Hunter stuff, is going to hide guys who have the really wide range of outcomes, which is pretty important to understand which guys can really, really crush their ADPs and which dudes are.
Well, this is all.
You're hoping they beat it by a round.
All of this is kind of window dressing to like the fundamental truth of fantasy football that people like me ignore when they talk about guys like Jameson Williams, which is that huge spikes in scoring, whether it be over the course of a season or in a single game, are more likely to come via volume than efficiency. And none of these players highlighted, maybe Njoku. I mean, Njoku could actually have a 140 target season in some of the scenarios, but Bowers is like sort of open to like, I mean, he could just lead the NFL in targets. He could lead the NFL in receptions. And that is like way more likely to give you these crazy spikes in season long and single game scoring than oh, he just scored a bunch. He scored a 70-yard touchdown one
Right,
week. Obviously,
right,
70-yard touchdowns are really useful, really valuable. You like to have them. You like to draft players who can score them. But, like I remember I used to have this argument with Leone all the time about guys like Jamison Crowder and stuff. Like, it's just like, what's the point? And, because those guys can just sometimes wake up and have an 11-target game, their ceiling is actually much higher than you would think. And like, dude, Bowers could have a 200 target season if the Raiders are good, a 180 target season if the Raiders offense is okay. Like it's pretty big.
Yeah, there's a lot of touchdown pushback. It's all, it's a half PPR site. Touchdowns are so big. And that does help me kind of understand why there is such a big difference.
That's the pushback.
Yeah, I disagree with that pretty strongly and think that's not a good way to go, especially because both Bowers and McBride show up as positive regression candidates from a touchdown perspective. So the idea that they're going to score fewer touchdowns, than some of these other bets later on much, much bigger target volume, I think is a bad bet. Got a comment here. Who has more touchdowns in the playoffs? Bowers plus McBride versus Andrews. I think we're supposed to think Andrews there. I think Bowers plus McBride, like by a ton. Like I don't get that. But I guess if you're just buying the touchdown numbers from last year, then it starts to become a weaker case for these elite tight ends. I am not at all buying the touchdown numbers from last year. The McBride one probably concerns me a little bit more now that I know he scored one touchdown in his senior year. But the Bowers one especially, I'm like, this guy is looking like the engine of his offense, a true second-year wide receiver type of breakout. He does all the play action stuff. He's out there when you need him to be for the tight end. There's no red flags around him as a tight end who would be in kind of an Evan Ingram, Kyle Pitts, can't seem to get in the end zone type of thing. He plays real tight end, and they utilize him on the types of plays where you typically do see the tight end emphasized in the passing game, those kind of rollout plays around the goal line. He's on the field, he's running the routes. And maybe I don't know, maybe the fact that he had horrible quarterback play last year affected the touchdown ability. Maybe the team wasn't any good. Like maybe that hurt. I think the fact that they upgraded the quarterback and the coaching is pretty important for his ability to score touchdowns. The fact that they added Genti is good because it should keep kind of the offense on track. Like there's a number of ways where Bowers' outlook just looks so much stronger than it did last year. And that's on top of him being an incredible prospect who just had the best rookie tight end season ever.
By the way, I do just
total touchdowns as a team last year because their quarterbacks were Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and Desmond Ritter.
There were a couple people in the chat who just immediately balked at the idea of him seeing 200 targets. First off, there have been 8 200 target seasons. All of them took place in 16-game seasons. Passing volume, obviously, like all-time up in the NFL. Even with rush. Basically, I think that's not even his 99th percentile. I think I think that's like his 93rd percentile. Like there are just these crazy seasons out there for Brock Bowers. Like Cooper Kupp has a 191 target season in a 16-game season.
I would just say that we don't need it. We don't even need.
Of course.
That.
People just always they think I'm being outlandish when I'm not.
Bowers last year finished 6th in targets. Jamar
Third
Chase,
in receptions.
Malik Neighbors, Garrett Wilson, Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Brock Bowers, CeeDee Lamb. And he played 2 less games, but he was ahead of CeeDee Lamb. He was ahead of Jerry Jeudy. He was ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown in 17 games. 17 games. They each played 17 games. He had 10 more targets than Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know. Seems like he got a bunch of targets. Like, I guess if like that, it's helpful for me to understand that I'm really just betting on positive touchdown regression for one of the that's
literally all it is. It's literally just, can he get to league average for the amount of yards that he gets, like touchdown per yards.
Yeah, so I don't have
also
enough
think that it's
Bowers
just
there.
that people-
I'm too light Bowers. If that really is why he's falling, then he's an even better bet than I thought.
I also think people like just he's almost like a victim of his own success to me, where like the rookies that are kind of disappointing, people will constantly be like, yeah, but he's going to get a lot better. Right? Like, and I'm not even saying these guys are bad picks or anything, or that we shouldn't be projecting progression. I think we clearly should be projecting progression. But like, you bring up Marvin Harrison, everybody's like, he's going to take a big step year 2. Bring up Rome Odunze, it's like he's going to take a big step year 2. Heck, you bring up Jamison Williams, people be like, look, last year was his first full year. You know, going into year 4, that's going to be a big breakout. Then you bring up Bowers, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if he can match what he did last year. He ran a lot of routes, and like, yeah, maybe the quarterbacks are a little bit better, but like, if he only does what he did last year, it's not going to be a very good pick. Like the idea that Bowers will just get better as a player this year is like not even something that people are willing to consider, because I guess he was already so good.
Yeah,
that it's like the idea of progression from him is like people won't even consider it. It's like, well, this is what he was last year, and I guess we can say like quarterback efficiency up, touchdowns up, volume down, whatever. But like, why can't he just get better? He's 21. He's gotten better every year of his life. He's probably going to continue to get a lot better. He has less room to grow, obviously, than players who are worse than him. But like, we should still be projecting progression from him. We saw that from other players. Like Jamar Chase is a lot better now than he was as a rookie. Justin Jefferson's better now.
CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb is way
people
better.
People used to call CeeDee Lamb beta Lamb. They say, oh, he can only play out of the slot. Brock Bowers at 17 years old led the national champion Georgia Bulldogs in touchdowns, yards, and receptions. But it's certainly impossible that he'll ever get better. Do we have another slide? Is that it?
The flip.
Well, let me one last thing on
one last thing
is that we're now getting to the point where, like, to Jacob's point about rookies getting better, we're getting to the point where if Bowers is falling to the 3rd, which is insane to me, that means he might be going behind Marvin Harrison, a player who was far less efficient than we were hoping last year, a player who failed to hit 900 yards.
That happens,
right? Like,
I'm blind buying Marvin Harrison too.
I'm not
probably
out.
A different show.
I think
I'm
it's
not out on
reasonable,
Harrison,
but it's yeah.
Bowers had 112 receptions last year. Harrison had 62.
Harrison probably had fewer targets than Bowers had receptions, I bet.
Oh, for
Harrison
sure.
had 114 targets and Bowers had 112 receptions. Yeah, so just barely cleared the targets. Yeah, over receptions. 885 yards to Bowers 1,194. The spot he got him, he pipped him on the touchdowns. He's got 8. Bowers had 5. So that's.
But also Marvin Harrison got a big quarterback upgrade and a big he's actually the same. But Bowers
status quo situation versus major upgrades, and someone took Marvin Harrison ahead of Brock Bowers. It's happened in the tournament. Why? Both these guys are kind of high-end prospects for their position, but one of them's coming off this incredible rookie year, gets all these upgrades. The other dude's status quo after a disappointing rookie year. I'm not out on Harrison. I do take some Harrison, but that just does not make any sense to me. I guess 3 touchdowns are enough to flip all the other evidence. I don't get it. Anyway, let's move on.
I think we have one more slide.
Right.
I got nothing to say about this other than that people are finally woke. Jacob, I read your piece and I thought it was very interesting. Couldn't have disagreed more with your conclusion.
Sure.
But I liked the attempt that you used to get there on CMC, because I guess we could just do this very quickly. If CMC is active in week 17, he's going to be projected for the most points of any skill position player. We just disagree on the likelihood of him achieving. We just disagree on the likelihood of him achieving that week 17 activity effectively.
I don't even know if we disagree on the likelihood. It's just, to me, it's just like a game. It's just like a tournament format thing. Like in the main event, I will be very into Christian McCaffrey at this price. But in Best Ball Mania specifically, because so much of it is weekly, I care a lot less about that. Like the argument of he has the highest season-long ceiling and he will project for the most points each week if he's healthy, is like considerably more persuasive to me in a standard redraft league, and slightly less, but still very, very persuasive to me in the main event. And then another tier of less persuasive to me in Best Ball Mania, where I don't need to beat Christian McCaffrey all year long if he's healthy. I just need to beat him in 1 week. And even if he projects better, my odds are still pretty reasonable of doing that with insert other first-round pick. So I find that his floor remains very low relative to other first-round picks due to injury concerns.
Hey, man, you can't even prove we're going to be alive. You can't even
impactful.
prove we're going to be alive tomorrow. In the famous words of his head coach, Kyle Shanahan.
I certainly can't prove that. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I got in some of him early. I mean, also, funny enough, that's the first time I've drafted literally a single share of Christian McCaffrey in like 3 years. So, but yeah, it's tough. I won't be clicking him the rest of the summer for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the floor on McCaffrey does make him harder to click in BBM, I think, because all these guys do have really high ceilings, you know, and the receivers in that range are really good picks. So I've definitely taken less McCaffrey. Like I tend to break ties towards the receiver there. As he's moved up, he's definitely a harder click. He seems kind of like he's going to flip Puka. And at that point, I think I'm out. Like I just want Puka every time over McCaffrey. I mean, Puka is going to project really well too in any weeks, you know, that he's healthy. And I think the way the rest of the landscape breaks down, Puka is what I can't get later. As far, you know, having a guy who's just crushing at wide receiver. Wide receiver kind of dries up.
Okay,
much more quickly.
I have a hot take. I'm gonna leave. Actually, you know what? I'm not even gonna say it. It's too dark to even say it.
Adams outscores Puka. Is that where you're going?
No, I was gonna go with Puka Nacua could be a literal generational remember that guy because his body just isn't built to hold up to professional football. He's missed every year he's played organized football. He's missed multiple games with an injury.
Well, how many games did he miss in his senior year of high school?
I'm not even shitting you. Literally most of it.
You're definitely not allowed to FUD other players' injury profiles when bull posting for Christian McCaffrey. That's just not allowed. I could do whatever I want, bro. You're not allowed to be like, I will take Christian McCaffrey over X because X is injury prone. Like if injury prone has any meaning, which is probably still a matter for debate, it like has to apply to the guy who has played 1 week 17 in the last 5 years.
Hey man, I can play and say and do whatever I want.
Well, the thing about the injury prone people is that like we don't ever seem to like review the history books on like who has been injury prone and isn't anymore. Remember when Kittle was injury prone?
Remember when the funniest one was Matt Stafford got this rep as injury prone?
Matt Stafford was injury prone.
Because he played through a torn labrum. He never even missed time. He played through a torn labrum and people said he was injury prone.
It gets applied to guys. I mean, look, if you suffer a bunch of like lower leg injuries, it's probably more likely that you'll suffer another lower leg injury, whatever. I'm not a doctor. There's probably some, kind of compensatory injuries and all that stuff. But like, we just apply it willy-nilly. And a guy gets hurt. It's like, he's injury prone. He got hurt twice. He's injury prone now. And then we just like we quietly go at the end of the season and take it off the guys who didn't get hurt that year.
we just
never injury prone again. It's absolutely ridiculous behavior. Yeah, so I'm not buying into the Puka injury prone thing. I'm not. I am buying into. He had 3.59 yards per route run last year. This dude is insane. He had 2.59 as a rookie and leveled up in his second season in a massive way.
He's every bit as good as Chase and Jefferson. He's honestly like a lot better than CeeDee Lamb, and people should just admit that.
Yeah, I'm not fading Puka. I refuse.
I think the first round is now approaching like an equilibrium where the players are being drafted in the correct order, both in terms of like projected points and weighing in, who is most likely to succeed. Like to the point that I don't think I need to take any stances on first round players at this point.
You know what I yearn for even more than wide receiver 59 Garrett Wilson is like 110 Kenyon Drake. Like I wish there was just like a player in this first round who was in the Big Bird costume. Like why couldn't we have like 109 Chase Brown or something?
What the heck is a polar bear doing in Arlington?
And then just like
what
draft all
Joe
the
Mixon.
other players, right? Like why can't we have that? But like we don't. So it's like unfortunately, like the Chase Brown is priced in a range that I actually don't mind drafting Chase Brown. And then I also like every single player in the first round is good. Like the players that I'm fading in the first round relative to ADP right now are Barkley, although less so now that he's been flipped by Bijan, McCaffrey, and Amon-Ra. But like I can't really say that any of those are bad picks. It's just that like there's other picks that I think are such good picks and I need to get over 8% some of them. So I'm picking the ones that I'm least enticed by, but like I think every single first round pick is totally justifiable.
Yeah. All right, let's go to last call.
All right, I got to figure out last call.
All right, Shope did not leave us a pick in absentia.
It's like Effin Chisholm.
Well, I wonder if just like game theory wise, if I need to find a quarterback who is worth taking, because there's a limited number of those guys who can theoretically get points. You already took Shadur, which is kind of
that Aaron Rodgers value.
Honestly, the Aaron Rodgers pick is so big.
Crazy.
You know what? This one is not like particularly useful. Well, I gotta check one guy's ADP to see if he's not quite there yet. You know what? I'm gonna take Flacco. I'm gonna take Joseph Flacco because I am really weak at quarterback compared to Jacob, and I think Pat will have Dart. I'm like dead at quarterback actually, compared to you guys. So I need some theoretical points. So I'm gonna take Flacco. Jacob.
Well, I got lucky last week with the wheel of names, Darren Waller, so I can go last. Pat can go ahead of me.
God, that's so true. You're muted, Pat. I think you turned your microphone off.
I did. Thank you.
You did.
I'll take Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna do if you didn't do it for sure.
Really?
How many?
Yeah,
how many Browns? How many
we might
Browns
need to shut this game
quarterbacks?
down.
Yeah,
How
I was
many
looking at it
Browns
because I was like for sure the week 17 quarter. I mean, Joe Flacco was the worst pick in the history of last call. He has a 0% chance to be starting week 17. I was like Shadur and Dylan Gabriel. Like if I have them both, I have 2.5 quarterbacks because I have Rodgers, I have the Browns quarterback locked down, and then I have Richardson's 50% chance. I was going to be in the driver's seat. Pat did it. Sharp pick.
Thank you. I never thought I'd be congratulated for taking Dylan Gabriel in a fantasy base.
Yeah, Jacob's team is crazy. Jacob is going to win. Jacob is going to win for sure.
Let's not put the cart before the horse. All right, Dylan Gabriel was the best pick by far. But my backup is another Browns player named Dylan. Recently fallen into the 200s. I'll take Dylan Sampson.
Wow, that is a good pick.
Wait, I thought we already had Dylan Sampson. Didn't we pick him last week?
Pretty sure
No,
he's
never been in the 200s. This is the first time he's in the 200s.
Pretty sure he was drafted because I almost took him.
He's not on the sheet.
Not on the sheet.
I'll trade you if you want.
Deal.
All right.
I'll take Gabriel.
And I'll take Dylan Sampson.
Okay. Sounds good.
Wow. Okay. All right. We have executed a trade. Let me update this in my message to Zach. Dylan Gabriel and Dylan Sampson. Incredible stuff.
Pat, no. People don't like the trade for me.
Look, man, we got to get through 3 weeks. You need to build redundancy at the quarterback position.
Yeah, but
it doesn't get more
Gabriel's
redundant
probably
than
not
multiple
playing.
Browns quarterback.
Yeah. You can make him throw a
Manung guy.
Okay, that makes me feel better because it seems like there's at least not a full consensus that I shouldn't have made the trade. I think Dylan Sampson's fun. You know what the thing is? I was looking at my running back room and it's sneaky awful.
I mean, in actual BBM, Dylan Sampson's obviously like an infinitely better pick than Dylan Gabriel. But in this specific,
but for the mechanics,
I feel
the
very
mechanics of this
necessary to condom up my quarterback position as much as possible.
I feel you.
Man, Pat, I'm worried about your tight ends too. I'm honestly, how did Jacob get every winner?
I don't know.
You guys are drafting sexy players, and I'm drafting an ARP team.
Yeah, valid. All right,
Amari Cooper still hasn't signed, so my wide receivers are a little weak. But when he does, look out.
Yeah, when he signs with I don't know, the Chicago Bears, that would be very funny.
It's even more like draft day. Yeah. Throw in David Putney, you pancake eating motherfucker.
All right, I gotta go do the Swolecast. Karain is gonna be on with me at 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central on my channel.
No, I think I might have double booked myself, so we gotta discuss.
All right, we're gonna.
But I want to try to figure out a different time today if you got time.
Yeah, we could figure it out. Okay. Jacob, what do you have over at Thinking About Thinking?
I wrote a big piece. I think it was actually last Tuesday, but after recording. And it was primarily looking at the running back versus wide receiver economy and trying to make sense of it in terms of not projections or points per game, although I included some stuff on that, but specifically looking at where in the draft do late season weeks 10 through 17, 20 and 25 point spike weeks come from, and does that make sense of our current ADP environment, or are there holes? So you can check that out. There'll be a part 2 on that piece, which focuses less on the positional aspects, and more on the archetypes of players within each position. That'll probably come out sometime this week.
Beautiful. All right, boys, we're getting out of here. Come watch the Swolecast over in 5 minutes over on the Swolecast YouTube channel, and we will see you later. Adios.
Later. I do just want to mention we're still running the free trial, legendaryupside.com/side.
Sim kick
out there. The sim kick.
Yeah,
check it out. All right. Later, guys.